Hello, my people. How are you? We're just getting started. Please share the live. Sanibona. We haven't started. Tabeti, watch yourself. How are you, my brother? Dumelani, Botani, Melweni, Sanibona. Kamagu chikijwa. Molweni. Molweni bopungane. Hey, my people, we're just getting started. It's good to see you, my people. It's good to see you. Kasab, Kaub, Twacheseb, Bautuoshe, Twakula, Kamagu, Bopungane, Bochigitwa. I can see all of you, my people. I'm just going to take a minute or two just to get a few people on board. Today, I want to have a look at, in the context of Iran, China, and Russia being here. What I've been trying to do in the previous live was to sort of like draw a picture of the fact that South Africa has always been an international player. Our ancestors have always been international. It's not something new. We've always welcomed many different groups of people here. Many Portuguese, today Xhosa, and Zulu and Pondo. Many Malaysians today are Xhosa. They are Kora today. Many Maroons, many Moors. Many Germans, many British people today. Like your Celtic peoples today. They speak Xhosa, they speak Zulu today. They speak Sesotho. Many French people. That is something that is glossed over in our schools. Nobody ever teaches about this, which is sad because people pay huge amounts of school fees and it's still the same. There's no change. The children come out, they know absolutely nothing about anything that matters really. So I'm going to have a look at, the truth about our international involvement. The truth about our international involvement since 700 AD. But I'm going to focus from 1552 to 1652, that 100-year period. Because what's being taught in schools and what actually took place are two completely different things. Now, the crazy thing is that white people wrote about these things. It always boggles my mind when Europeans will pretend like, oh no, we thought Africa was just huts and desert and all that. No, Europeans are lying, man. Europeans know Africa more than some people in Africa. They know so much about Africa because they wrote thoroughly about this land. From the Greeks to the Romans, to the Portuguese, to the Germans, to the Dutch, to the English, they've always written about us. They've written thoroughly. When I say thoroughly, I mean in detail. They know exactly. They know the numbers. They know the dates. Europeans will describe the features of the people they saw, the height, how the ear was, the ratio of the forehead to the chin. They know so much about us. Today they act like they don't know. Oh, we thought Africa was just huts and mud houses. No, they're lying. Europeans are lying when they say that. They know way more than they're letting on. So sometimes you don't even have to do a lot of work. Just find the stuff they wrote. You will see very quickly the stuff they wrote are the same stuff that our ancestors told us, the oral history. So we're going to have a look at some of those things because there's this idea that perhaps South Africa was this hidden country, Oh no, I want to go back to when we were still hidden. Nobody knew about us. No, they always knew about us. Remember, there was no Suez Canal not long ago. They made the Suez Canal. It's man-made. It never existed. They needed to pass in South Africa. They needed to pass through South Africa. So the idea that we were this hidden place that the world didn't know about is complete and utter lies. African foreigners, Asian foreigners, European foreigners have been here since the 1400s. They've been passing here from the East Coast to the West Coast, from Cape Town to Limpopo. So that nonsense that, oh, guys, let's go back to being that country that is not known. We were always known, guys. That's the truth. We had always been known since the times of Great Mapungubwe, when the Indians and the Chinese were trading with us, when the Persians, when the Moors, when the Arabs of Yemen and Oman were coming here. We were always known. So we have to now go back in time and remove this, these blinkers from our peoples. Our people have been so dumbed down by Bantu education. They think everything starts and ends with Jan van RIebeek. Jan van RIebeek is nothing compared to what has happened in this country. Jan van RIebeek is absolutely insignificant. Absolutely insignificant. But, Bantu education makes you worship whiteness, worship the Dutch, worship the Afrikaners so much that you can't think beyond them. We're just starting, guys. We're just starting. Don't worry. We're just starting. But it would not be me if I don't play some nice music. Locha, Nkazimulu. Hey, I'm not going to lie. I don't remember where I got this map. I don't remember. I can look for you maybe after the live, but I really do not remember. Then someone's asking, how do I learn isiXhosa? You learn by paying me. I do have a Xhosa course. We have weekly sessions every Wednesday for people who want to learn isiXhosa. From Xhosa noun classes, verbal extensions, how to construct sentences, coherence, learning for meaning, conversational and functional isiXhosa. You can come and learn every Wednesday. Obviously, it's a paid course. So you just inbox me. There's a gentleman who's Xhosa originally, but I think he grew up in Free State, so he doesn't know how to speak isiXhosa. He's one of my students there. We've been together for a couple of months now. So you can always just inbox me and I'll give you the details. We have our first session of the year next week, Wednesday, 6 p.m. to 7. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to play a song or two and then we're going to continue now. I'm going to agitate. Please share the live. Say nice things here. So that they don't block whatever. No, you don't have to be closer to learn. You could be white. You could be European. You could be Spanish. You could be Umzulu or Mupedi. If you want to learn and you're willing to pay, I'm giving you the information. The languages are dying out. The more people who speak the languages, the better. I learn other people's languages. I taught myself Chivenda and Xitsonga. I didn't learn it at school. I went and Najonza Xitsonga. Najonza Xitsonga because I saw the need to be able to relate to Vatsonga and Bavenda. So whatever your ethnic group is, the more languages of native people you know, the stronger your knowledge is going to be. The stronger your knowledge is going to be, the bigger your audience is going to get. Because if you can translate the same context between Kora and Xhosa, and between Xhosa and Zulu, and between Zulu and Tsonga and Venda, trust me, you're going to get more native people to know the truth. The divide is really just, it's a hogwash. It's a fugazi. Let's play a song, guys, and then get started, you know. Let's play a song and get started. And then, welcome to everyone. Welcome. Hey! Today's session is South Africa has always mattered into the international community. There's a concept that South Africa was widely unknown and only is just being discovered recently. That's not true. The only people who are just discovering South Africa are descendants of slaves. White people have known South Africa for the longest times. And the only people who don't know South Africa has been known are the people who are oppressed, the native people. Before our oppression, our ancestors knew that there's an international world. Do you understand? They had been trading with Europeans. They had been trading with Asians. They had been trading with Arabs for a very long time. So the idea that with this little unknown place, complete nonsense. It's just you are reducing yourselves with that nonsense. We've always played the international role. Why? Because we're critical for the East India trade, you know. So whenever Europeans needed to go to the East, they needed us. We were always the central point. Oh, why did they not pass through the Suez Canal? There was no Suez Canal. It's man-made. To this day, many ships are unable to pass there because there's war and all nonsense. We are literally the most properly located place on the planet to have the strongest voice on international affairs. It's just that you take toddlers who are raised by Bantu education, you put them in positions of power. They're just there kissing ass. So we're going to look at historical events where our ancestors from the Cape all the way to Limpopo had shown that they are an industrious people. They had hosted many visitors, many Europeans. Many Europeans literally became part of the native societies. Many, they've written about it themselves. Gosh. So I'm just gonna welcome all of you with a nice song. Welcome. Uhlathi lona ngujamba sengulisa ngocansi ngusanza ngohlangu emvelweni. Usiduli lona ngugube emhlophe nguphala kuhle lengwendlela yehlela. Mabulabulayo ngathi ngumthakathi. Untsilane lona. Wakulo mayikana wakulo vimbisa kokhwala emgodleni. Wakulo geqa amatshe. Sithoka ngobulembu entabeni. Sinqola ngomhluzi amanzi ekhona. Sipheka iphemphem neqhakuba ngenqawana. Okay, I think there's enough people now to start. I think there's enough people. Camagu, siyacamca. Siyacamca xa sisitsho, siyacangcatha, siyacengceleza. Sicengceleza izinqulo. Izinqulo ke zabangqanci abangaphambili. Siyacamca, siyanqula, siyacamagusha, sithi makube chosi. Kube chosi kubele. Kube camagu. Kudeda ubunqu kuvela ubuqhwa. Kudeda ubuntsu kuvela ubumweka. Nguhlathi ke lo phambi kwenu, uhlathi ikhulu, uhlathi elingothiwa selivutha lothiwa zimfene kuba imfene zibaninilo. Ngumntu wakwarhwala emgodleni, wakwageqa amatye, owakapheka iphemphem neqhakuba ngenqawana, owakathekwa ngobulembu entabeni, owakangcola ngomhluzi amanzi ekhona. Ndingwakwaluncu mna, ndingwakwamwandla, wakajambasi, wakalisa. NdingumSuthu, ndingucanzi, ndingusanzanze sanzonza kwavela umntu. Ndinguntsilane mna, ndingubhlashe, ndingundlazana, umntu obhushulaze. Ithole ke lemazi yasemanzothweni onyelenzi umapha ngongqalo onqanginqanqa sinoxoxo xhama oweleliyo bephambili impuzi ngasemfemfene ethunga ntombi asemanzothweni. Oyini bafazi bentsikizi le ntsholo nayiphazame nithabatha isidoda. Ngoma le ihlatyelwe isifazi, into zikaNtsiba nkulu kayuthu, into zikantaba zikahili, into zikamgqwetho, into zikagwadela, ikomo zikambiko zikamancamu zikamlawu, sihlobo sikakhawuta, sihlobo sikagcaleka, sihlobo sikaphalo sikangconde. Zukulwana ke mampehleni kocabatsho nkomo zibomvu udikano lubisi, into zakuloyibeka wakulokani. Mzukulwana ke mna ke emantlaneni kontlanga konqabane kongqungqushe koziqeleka zohlamba ngobenda amanzi ekhona. Ndisisukuzuku ke mna ke kofaka othahla ondayini. Fakofakayo siyahlangana, wena uyikhuphayo siyadidana. Ndiyacamagusha ke kumangqosini xa ndisitsho, ndicamagusha koociwoshe, koothithiba, koonozinga, abantu bomlambo, koongqangana. Camagusha kondo, komenyezwa. Camagusha ke komjobi. Kuthiwa ngutye elimnyama imbokodo kahili ephezu komlambi igqile iqenqeleke isehlise enyuka. Ngokhokho bamabo ke. Ngokhokho bamamagcina oociwoshe. Amagcina oxhamela oncancashe. Abantu bomla bantu abadli igusha, bathi ziziduli zethafa. Andingababizanga ndibangaqumbi bangaqalekisi madoda. Kukucamnca ke oko, kukunqula ke oko, kukucenga oko, sithi ngxesi xa singxangxaza sesitsho. Camagwini, welcome my people, welcome. This is what self-knowledge looks like. This is what it looks like. It sounds confusing these days because we have been bred and programmed to always look outside of ourselves. But this is what it looks like. All I just did was to just call myself. I just invoked myself. Nothing more. I just invoked myself. Baby Pluto is asking that Zulus come from Congo. No, man. I think the people who've been attending my lives will answer that on my behalf. I can't answer that now. That would be like going back 10 steps. Let me just say this now. There's not a single group of people who are native to South Africa that come from somewhere else. Doesn't matter what anyone wants to believe. Zulu people, Pedi people, Sotho people, whatever group of people you can think of that are here, that are native here, they don't come from anywhere else. It doesn't matter who says what. I don't give a damn. The only people who came from outside here are people who came as slaves and as indentured servants. That's it. Now, if someone personally thinks they come from Congo, kudos to them. They can board the next plane and go to Congo. Now we've gone past that stage of trying to tell people who they are. If someone has not been told by their family who they are, then they're not gonna hear it from TikTok. Anyway, guys, let's talk about, why is it that the chapter of our history that involves our ancestors doing trade with other nations and other cultures beyond 1652, somehow it's never talked about? The role of indigenous societies has been reduced to such a level that most people don't even know that it exists. The role in establishing what became the ports and trade routes of South Africa. I repeat, the role of indigenous societies in establishing what became the ports and what determined and influenced the routes of the roads and the routes of the rails here in South Africa. These roads were not just built because they're just roads. Many of them followed routes that already existed, many of which were trade routes from indigenous communities, many of which were animal routes. You could see it in the names of places. For example, there's a place called Ganto, Selores Pass. The actual name is Ganto. Selores Pass is Ganto, which means the route that was taken by the eland route. Gan is the eland, or Gan is the eland. Do is it's a road, a route, Another place called Karido, which is Karido. Kari, as I've said before, is a Steenbok. Karido is the route that the Steenboks used to take. And these are places today, these are roads that have been built in these places, So, that is to say now, it's clear that because many of the place names, the toponyms, are based on names that already existed. Many of the roads that were built are based on routes that already existed. The ports that we have today are based on trade that already existed with Europeans before colonization. Europeans were not here only at the time of colonization. They were here before colonization. Before Jan van RIebeek, there was more than 200,000 Europeans, that had more than 200,000 people who had come from outside with ships only. At the Cape, in Cape Town alone, between 1600 and 1652, this is 50 years, more than 200,000, more than 180,000 people had already been here. In the eastern coast of South Africa, that is to say, from Eastern Cape to KZN, between 1552, from 1552 to 1713, you had 9 shipwrecks. I'm not talking about ships that passed, peacefully and traded with the people. I'm talking about wrecks. Just shipwrecks alone, there was 9 of them. Now we're going to go through them. And we're going to see how a lot of the times, the survivors of those shipwrecks stayed with the local people and they did not want to leave anymore. I repeat, a lot of the times, the survivors of the shipwrecks stayed with the local people and did not want to leave anymore, even when the opportunity to go back to Europe was there. Even when there was the opportunity to go back to Europe, they were like, no, we're no longer going back. So it's not new. When you see these Americans and Germans who come here and they stay here, and after a month here, they're like, hey, I don't want to go back, guys. They've always been like that. They've always never wanted to go back. Europeans have always never wanted to go back. In fact, there's a saying that, the fall of the Portuguese Empire was partly due to the Wild Coast. So many of their ships were shattered on the Wild Coast. So many. They couldn't survive. They couldn't navigate. I remember there's an island known as Msikaba Island. Many of the Portuguese ships were shattered in that region. So I did mention previously that between 1497 and 1650, and this is very important because this is before the famous Jan van RIebeek. Between 1497, the time of Vasco da Gama, and 1650, there was more than 1,000 ships that came from Portugal to India. A lot of those ships did not make it. They were wrecked along the coasts of Africa. Some in Congo, Angola area, some in the Namibia, some in the Northern Cape area, some in the Western Cape area, but many on the East Coast, between Eastern Cape and KZN. Now, we're going to have a look at some of these, including what happened. These ships, remember, these ships are predecessors to what we understand as modern day trade. These ships are predecessors to what we understand as modern day trade. They are also predecessors to our colonization. So the more the ships are coming, the more the people want to stay. The more they kept on coming, the more they wanted to stay. They didn't want to leave anymore. They don't want to leave. Now, it happened previously. They didn't want to leave. They wanted to take over the place. So we're going to have a look at that in a minute. I just need to set up my stuff here quickly. And then let's see. Did black people in Brazil go there as slaves, or they are indigenous to Brazil? There are many black people in Brazil. Many of them come from Congo and Angola. But there's very clear evidence that many of them are slaves from West Africa. They are not indigenous. They practice the same religion as West Africans in Brazil, especially on the east side of Brazil, in places like Bahia. The names of their ancestors are clearly West African names. Nganganzumbi, for example, Ngangazumbi, which is where the name zombie comes from. Ngangazumbi simply means the priest of Nzambi, or the priest of the creator, the priest of the mighty one. Nganga is priest, which is what we call ngaka or inyanga. Zumbi or zombie is unzambi, which is the Central West African name for the creator. They say Nzambe or Nyambe, the one who shall be. So that's one of the heroes of Brazil, Nganganzombi, of the Brazilian black people. He was one of the people who resisted, slavery. That's a clearly Central African name. That's not a native Southern American name. There are tribes in Brazil that have always been there, that have never been enslaved, that have never been colonized. They are still there. So we must not seek to replace indigenous people in their areas. This is exactly what's happening in South Africa. People are trying to replace the indigenous South Africans. People who claim to be First Nation or Aboriginal are literally trying to replace indigenous South Africans and place them somewhere else. That should not happen. There are indigenous Brazilians. There are different shades. Some are darker, some are lighter than others. Different types of hair. Same thing in America. There are different indigenous groups in America. These groups are not necessarily one nation. I am an indigenous South African. Buhlali. It's me. If you want to know who are indigenous South Africans, it's me. If you have any questions about that, come to me. I will help. I'm an indigenous South African. Now, there are people who are trying to replace my people. There's this Mosiah guy on TikTok. He's a Caribbean slave descendant. Apparently, my people are not indigenous. We are Asians. So, yeah. I'm not Khoisan. No, I'm not Khoisan, my brother. Because Khoisan does not exist. There's no such a thing as Khoisan. I can't be something that doesn't exist. I'm not Khoisan. Mina ndingumfene, ndinguhlathi, ndingucanzi, ndingusanzanza. Ndikupheka iqhakuba nephemphem ngengxawana. Ndingurhwala emgodleni mina. Ndikuthekwa ngobulembu entabeni. Ndikuncola ngamhluzi amanzi ekhona. So With that Khoisan shit and nonsense doesn't work on me. I'm not that one of those guys, I know my story very well. I'm an indigenous South African. My ancestors exist from Eastern Cape to Western Cape, all the way to the the mountains of Lesotho, Maloti, Katlam, which in our old indigenous language is Patlapa. All over Lesotho, the oldest names there are the names in my languages. So yeah. Anyway, the point is that people must not try to replace indigenous populations, guys. Whether it's in the Americas, whether it's here in Africa, anywhere, all over Africa, there are many indigenous peoples. You understand? There are indigenous people in West Africa, indigenous people of Central Africa, indigenous people. Indigenous people don't have to be from the same nation. They don't even have to claim to be related. The indigenous, they were formed in those regions. So the same thing in America, you've got many different indigenous nations. They're not necessarily one people. They were just there before Europeans. Same thing in Australia and all that. So the same thing goes here in South Africa. So yeah, let me see if there's any other comments. Talk about Zulus who are not being banded as banded because they're from East Africa. I know, man. No, guys. No. There's no such a thing as Bantu. There is no such a thing as Bantu. There's no such a thing. What is Bantu now? What's that? Tswana people are indigenous. Come on, guys. What do you mean you don't know that you are indigenous? Kandi, what did your ancestors tell you? Because Botswana literally tell you that they come from Lowe, they come from Matsieng, which is literally here. When you break South Africa and Botswana, that region is where Botswana were formed. Their oral history literally says that. They say they were formed there in Matsieng, in the land of the Bakoni, in the land of the Tauni peoples. Botswana are literally indigenous to this land. They never existed anywhere else. I know there's a lot of myths and folklore that Botswana came from Middle East. Those people just yearn to be part of the Bible. That's the whole truth. Black Africans just want to be in the Bible. Unfortunately, that's not going to work. You're from here, Baba. If you're Tswana, you're from here. If you're Sotho, you were formed here. There are no Botswana anywhere else in any other part of the world except here. That's it. Bantu, it doesn't exist, that nonsense. That nonsense of Bantu does not exist. Yeah, maybe they mean Zex Bantu. Man, guys, come on, man. We can't be so stupid, man. You can't be here using colonial 1800s arguments here with me in 2026. You can't be that dumb to be using colonial 1800s arguments. We have information, it's freely available right now. Things like Hamites and Shemites and Japhetites are old stories that are not real. We know humans in Southern Africa have existed for the past 15,000 to 200,000 years. You're telling me about something from the 1800s? That's some stupid missionary, mythology. It's not going to cut it here. It's not going to cut it. Come with something concrete if you want to ask questions. Don't ask me stuff that are from the 1800 missionaries. Those things of Hamites and Shemites and Japhetites. We have much older records. We literally have the oldest languages here in South Africa. We have the oldest languages in South Africa. We have the oldest DNA in South Africa. We could not have come from anything else. We are the predecessors of everything. We are the originators of everything, not the other way around. So it's the other people who come from us, not us from them. So someone are asking me to explain the whole thing of Khoisan. Please explain when you say Khoisan are not real. There's no people called Khoisan. There's not even a single culture. There's not even a single culture that ever called themselves Khoisan here in South Africa or anywhere else in the world. It was a label, just like there was no single group that called themselves Bantu. Khoisan and Bantu are both false. They are not real. They never have. There was never anything called Khoisan or Bantu. Not even a single group that exists. Not even a single group that exists that call themselves Khoisan. It's a term that was used by a zoologist, Schultz, a German zoologist, who went and committed a genocide when he was murdering the Herero people in Namibia and the Nama people in Namibia. He then felt like, since he's a zoologist, he works with animals. He figured out there's a new groups of animals. This group of animals is called Khoisan. In fact, I've done many lives on this thing, man. I'm not going to waste my time on this nonsense. I've done too many lives on this. Anyway, so I mentioned previously that in 1552, there was a ship that got wrecked on the east coast. This ship was called the Galleon Sao Joao. Now, I'm going to share the screen with you guys so that you can see about the ship. Because I want to show you how you need to be sharp here. Indigenous South Africans, native South Africans are still stuck in the past. They are a lost people. They are looking for someone to lead them, preferably a white male, because that's what they've known their whole lives. They are suffering from a syndrome, a white savior syndrome. That's why now they want Groenewald to lead them. I wish they could taste him. You need to be able to go back to a time where our ancestors were independently trading with the world. Our ancestors traded literally with India, with China, with the Middle East, even with Europeans outside of colonization. They negotiated prices independently. They negotiated exchange rates, which is prices, independently. They bartered with Europeans independently. So you have to go back to that place so that you understand your place when it comes to international trade. You think when the Portuguese were navigating the seas from Portugal to India, they needed to stop time and again. Time and again. Now I want to show you a ship that got wrecked in the East Coast in 1552. Now, to show you, this is 100 years. This is 100 years before Jan van RIebeek. And these Europeans literally lived with the local people. They lived with the local people. They traded with the local people. And many of the survivors from that shipwreck became part of the local clans. And this is not just one shipwreck. You know, when I say a shipwreck, just know that in many of the shipwrecks, you would have 3, 4, 5 ships. 3, 4, 5 ships that, are being wrecked in one place. And the people who come out of those ships, it's not just Europeans. Just because it's Portuguese ships, it's not just Portuguese people. It's Portuguese ships, but the people that are there are Asians, Africans, and some Europeans. Just listen. Listen to what I'm saying. Don't ask questions. Listen. So, a lot of the times, people assume that because it's a Portuguese ship, then it must have been the Portuguese only. That's not true. This ship here, Galleon Sao Joao, was wrecked in June 1552 in what we call Port Edward today. In what we call Port Edward. It says here 500 souls survived. But majority of the people who survived were actually slaves. Do you understand that the ship had so many slaves that even after it got wrecked, majority of the survivors were slaves? The slaves are the same people who built those bloody ships and maintained those bloody ships. They survived. It says that the castaways set off for the bay that Lourenço Marques had visited a few years earlier, De La Goa Bay. So they got shipwrecked in Port Edward and they walked from Port Edward to Delagoa Bay. But here's the thing. In January the next year, 8 Portuguese and 17 Asian slaves reached Inhambane, which is Nyembane, by the way. Nyembane, it's the beans. It's the beans. I know a lot of people are like, Nyembane was a man. He gave birth to the Mayembane. No. Nyembane is the beans that they used to trade in Mozambique. So eventually in 1553, the next year, 8 Portuguese and 17 Asian slaves reached in Nyembane, the Portuguese settlement. Do you understand? 500 people survived, but only 8 plus 17 actually reached Mozambique. That means more than 400 people stayed in KZN and Eastern Cape. I repeat, more than 400 people stayed in KZN and Eastern Cape. These are Asians and Europeans and some black slaves. And this is what contributes to the genetics of these areas. And this is 100 years before Jan van RIebeek. So this idea that Europeans arrived when Jan van RIebeek arrived, that's complete nonsense. That's bollocks. So even the prophecies that people say there was a prophecy that came, that the white race is coming, and as the white race is coming, they will bring a book with them and coins. You must take only the book, but reject the coins. Because those prophecies are from the 1800s. They are also bollocks. Because Europeans had been here for much longer before the time of the prophecies, which means the Bible was already here by then, and the coins were already here by then, because these people came with the Bible and they named places with Christian names. For example, the place Natal. Natal means the birth of Christ. It's literally. Oh my goodness. This is not a book. These are my notes, guys. These are my notes. This is 1552, man. You see? 1552. In 1554, in the Eastern Cape, Msikaba Island. Anyone who's from Emampondweni knows Msikaba. Another ship called the Sao Bento. Also a Portuguese ship. But remember, when I say Portuguese, I mean it was made in Portugal and controlled in Portugal. But the people who were inside the ship were Europeans, Asians, and Africans. West Africans especially, and North Africans. These are the people. This ship got shipwrecked in Msikaba, Eastern Cape. Manuel de Castro, one of the survivors, he had survived the 2 years earlier. The Sao Joao, the first one, died the next night from a serious leg injury. The survivors salvaged washed up carpets, silk and gold cloth to construct a luxurious campsite. A few days later, they set out to follow the same perilous journey of the Sao Joao survivors. They met a few along the way who were then encouraged to finish the journey. Of the 322 survivors, 25 were rescued. You know, these people from these 2 ships, especially this one, they became a clan of Amampondo and Amabomvana today, known as Amamolo and Abelungu. Amamolo is the Maroons. Who were the Maroons and the Moors? The Maroons were the Asian Maroons, and the Moors who were on the ships. They went and joined Amampondo, and became Amamolo, the Moors and the Maroons. And the Portuguese joined Amampondo and Amabomvan and became Abelungu. To this day, these people still exist. To this day, they know who they are. To this day, they know who they are. So it's important to understand, when the Portuguese were being shipwrecked, you know how they survived. They had to trade with the people. In fact, the Portuguese themselves tell you that the first words they had from the locals, the first few words was the word nanaza. That's one of the first few words that the Portuguese heard from the locals. Nanaza and the word inkosi. You see, once you hear the word inkosi, you know they're here. Because we love inkosi a lot. We love inkosi a lot. So the word nanaza, what does it mean? It comes from the verb ukunana. Ukwanana, to barter, to trade. In isiXhosa, in fact, we use the version ukwanana. So when they heard the word unanaza, that means the locals, the Amampondo, the Amabomvana, the people of Kwamachi. That means, hey, there's a fool here. Someone called Zulu fake Bandu. Like, bro, just go get a job, man, or something. Go get a job. Nobody has attention for you. Nobody wants to talk to you. Oh, please, man, just go get a job or find a hobby. What's wrong with these people? Like, what's wrong with these people? Yes. My goodness. Just go find a job. Do something with your time, man. Go to the gym or something. There's someone in the comments who says, this is why a rich person is called Isinana or Isinana. I completely agree with this individual who says a rich person is called Isinana because the word ukunana is to trade. So Isinana is a great trader. And this is exactly the truth. And these are the records of the Portuguese saying this, that the first words they heard from the locals were the word nanaza, which in Isilala or Isizanzi, south of KZN, would be nanata. So guys, do you understand that this is 100 years before Jan van RIebeek even came to South Africa? Already, our people are comfortable to talk to Europeans and they understand that we can trade with these people. They didn't go to them to beg. No, they went to them to trade. They wanted some of the stuff that were in the ships. And if you comb through from Mozambique to Gqeberha, or Port Alfred, if you comb through the coast, you will see a lot of artifacts, Chinese artifacts. You check Chinese artifacts, you see Roman artifacts, Roman coins along the east coast of South Africa. That means that there was so much travel from Europe, from Asia, since the 600 AD time of Mapungubwe, and since before Mapungubwe, because these people understood that we were the place of gold. That's why Jan van RIebeek was told by the people of Auchumawo and the people of Suswa in the Cape that there was gold. He must go deep into the country. He'll find the gold. Unfortunately, he passed on having not found the gold, but his predecessor, his successor, Simon van der Stel, the mixed-raced governor of the Cape, that guy made sure that he's going to go and find the gold. He sent Isaac Schrijver to look for the gold. That's where he met with King Hinzati of the Gqonuqwa. They didn't find the gold either, but they knew that it must have been somewhere. You think Europeans just stayed here because they liked the weather only? No, they understood that there was wealth here. They stayed because they knew there's gold here, there's minerals. In fact, if you look at some of the names of the places that the Portuguese used, they used, for the river of Limpopo, they used the name Rio do Cobre, the river of copper. That's for the Limpopo River, Rio do Cobre. And then for the area of Mozambique, they used Terra dos Fumos, the land of the chiefs. They didn't say the land of the barbarians. They didn't say the land of the kafirs or the land of the monkeys. They understood and recognized the industry of the people. They understood. And this is just the east coast. On the west coast of South Africa, Auchumao, Harry, so-called Harry the Strandlooper, with his family, they started a new trade in the early 1600s. But it's clear there was an older trade that happened before that. Harry the Strandlooper started a new trade. He literally, single-handedly, with his family, they formed what is called Cape Town. But it's not the mother city, unfortunately. Cape Town is not the mother city. The mother city in modern times would be Mapungubwe. There's clear evidence that between the Limpopo and the Shasha Valley, the oldest city, at least from 600 AD, 700 AD, 900 AD to 1000 AD, the oldest city in Southern Africa is Mapungubwe. That would be the mother city. And Mapungubwe was not just Bavenda, like people like to believe. Unfortunately, that's not how history operates. Mapungubwe, you had the Chua peoples, you had the Wangona. In fact, they were the royal clan. You had the ancestors of some groups who are Xhosa and Zulu today in Mapungubwe. The Chua peoples were the priests, the high priests of Mapungubwe. Yeah. Guys, it goes deeper. But you've allowed yourself to be acquiescent towards European narratives. You've acquiesced your very souls to white supremacy. So anything that Europeans say must be true. It can't be true if it comes from anybody else. But the truth is much stranger than that. You know, they say it's stranger than fiction. They say it's stranger than fiction. So we've allowed ourselves to be so acquiescent to European narratives that you don't even realize that Mapungubwe is the mother city. It's a nation state that literally gave birth to most of us. Our trading practices are trading practices that were refined in Mapungubwe. I'm going to show you now how some of the Europeans, no, we'll come back to the trade in the West. I want to focus on the East now, because here's the thing. There's not much academic or scholarly interest in exposing how the people who live on the eastern side of the Drakensberg actually engaged with trade. There's not much of that. They don't want to talk about that. Like groups that were in Limpopo, groups that were in Mpumalanga, groups that were in KZN, groups that were in Eastern Cape were always traders. They don't want to talk about it. They want to reduce these nations and these ethnic groups to these tribal people. These were not tribal people. These were nations, literally. These were nations who understood trade. That's why you have trade routes. Today, they have farms. You know, these massive lands that are not occupied by anyone. When you travel from one city to the next, when you travel from one province to the next, those lands, it's where the trade routes of our ancient civilizations are. Look at Bukoni and the herds that they discovered. What does Shona have to do with this now? Based on what I just said, you assume that then, or you conclude that with everything I've shared with you, you conclude that we are Shona. Do you know that there's no such a thing as Shona? Even Shona people themselves don't even know what the word Shona means. There is no such a thing as Shona. It doesn't exist. It's literally about 10 to 20 languages that are bunched into one group called Shona. It's languages. It's not even a group of people. That's the truth. There's no people called Shona here. There never was, there never will be. It's many different dialects that were grouped together and clumped into some mega tribe thing or for European convenience. Go to Shona and ask them, what does Shona mean? They don't even know. Go to the so-called Shona people. And this is exactly what I'm saying. Khoisan, nobody knows what it is. Nobody knows what it means. But everyone is wearing it as a badge of honor now because our people have acquiesced to European narrative. So anything that a European says, they will jump for it. Oh no, the master says I'm Shona, guys. No. I'm no longer Zezuru now. I'm no longer Karanga now. I'm no longer Manyikeni now. I'm Shona because the white man said, and I don't want to make the white man sad. I'm Bantu, guys, because the Bliek and the Lloyds said so. I'm Bantu, guys, please. I've relinquished my identity. I'm no longer Xhosa now. I'm Bantu, okay? Things that don't exist. You call themselves those things now. You call themselves things that don't exist. You are literally spitting on the graves of your forefathers who fought for their identity. Hi. I'm telling you, South Africa, the center of trade between 800 AD to 1600. The center of trade was the Limpopo and the Shasha Valley. I'm not going to change the facts. That is the truth. Between 800 AD and 1600, the center of trade in this country was between the Limpopo River and the Shasha River. That's it. Therefore, all cultures of South Africa will have had to go there, will have had to live there. It's not just black, so-called black, or so-called, all cultures. Ora, they have history that connects them to that side. Chwa, they have history that connects them to that side. Nu, they have history that connects them to that side. Kwi, they have history that connects them to that side, because that was the center of trade. When Mapungube falls, you have Moene Mutapa. But Moene Mutapa is not just one place. Moene Mutapa is a combination of many different places. You have Manyikeni on the side of Mozambique. It's another center of trade. There's vassal states. It's a network of different states that are working together. It's not just one place. Same thing as Mapungubwe. Same thing as Mapungubwe. It's not just one place, you know. It's different states that are working together, but with one central hub. It's like a CBD. So Mapungubwe was basically the CBD, the OG of the CBDs of South Africa. So it is the mother city, not Cape Town. Now, let's go back. Let's go back to the shipwrecks that took place on the eastern side of the country. I mentioned the first ship. It was called the Galleon São João. Now, you must take notes. Now, there's a colored there in the comments who's embarrassing himself. You are embarrassing yourself. Actually, I don't even think you are colored. I think you are a West African slave descendant. I think you are a slave descendant who's trying to cause havoc. But my IQ is much higher than yours, so I'm not an idiot. I know you're going to cry. You're going to go back to the little basement you stay in and you're going to cry yourself to sleep tonight because I didn't give you the attention you thought I was going to give you. Go, man. Go do something. Masturbate or do something. The things you guys do, because clearly you don't have a life. Hey, these things. Suka. Let's go back, guys. Let's go back to the Portuguese ships. No, you can't buy land. That's nonsense. But once again, because white people say it, black people yearn for that to be true. The problem here is not white people, guys. White people are the same thing they've always been. It's the native people who want white people to be right. It's you, my people. You want whites to be right so much that no matter how much truth you guys can be given, you guys will always revert back to what the white master is saying. So now I'm not going to discuss what white people say or what they're not saying. I'm saying what I'm saying here and now. If you want to say, oh no, but the whites are saying this, go and worship them then on your own. Now I'm not going to be discussing what the whites are saying here. Because clearly there's something wrong in your brain, in your psyche. You need to go through some form of mind control therapy to erase the memories. Do some gene editing to erase the white worshipping gene in you. Because no matter how much truth someone can give you, you will always go back and like, but the whites are saying these guys. So what do we do? Go and worship them. I'm giving you permission today. Go and worship the whites. Go bow before them. Lick their asses. Please do it because you want to. You yearn for white approval. Go. Go. Hamba, Juba. Hamba. Here, this is not a space for that. If you want to worship whiteness, go. You're free. Nobody's going to judge you. We don't give a damn, actually. Because you're a white supremacist. You are a Nazi inside. Here, in your head. Here in your head. You're a Nazi. Abahambe. Now let's continue. Let's continue. Once again, if you feel that urge within you to reference some white thing, to counter something, don't worry, man. You are allowed to want your whites here, but not in this life. Go look for them. There's a guy, something Clark. He calls black people ooga boogas. Go there, go to him, tell him I stand with you. Go to Ronaldo House, tell him I stand with you, sir. Follow Helen Zille. There are many whites. Go to Rob Herzog, that Russian Jew. Rob Herzog, tell him I stand with you, sir. I mean, you could join the Grunewald Brigade as well. There's many. There's an assortment of choices, a plethora of options. You don't have to be stuck here. You like whiteness. You could go dig up Hitler's speeches, and sleep to those Hitler speeches. You could listen to that American guy who runs a guest house and a farm here in South Africa called Chris Wyatt. You could follow that. So there's so many options for you to go and, intellectually masturbate, because you have this white, fantasy in your head. You want whites to chain you like a dog and beat you with a shambok, a whip. You fantasize for that. Go and look for it. It's not here. I'm going to continue. The first ship that was wrecked is Galleon São João. Please write it down. Go and find the history of this ship. Go find the history of this ship. I want you guys to go and learn to read for yourselves. Why were the Portuguese going to Asia? They were going to Asia because there were resources there, and they had started a colony in a place known as Cochin. So they were established in Cochin. Now, they had to go to Asia. They would come back with slaves. Europe was built on slaves, not just black African slaves, but Asian slaves as well. From India, from what is now Indonesia, from what is now Bangladesh, from what is now Malaysia, from what is now Sri Lanka, from what is now China, from what is now Taiwan. All these places, slaves were taken from there to build Europe, to build whatever economy that you can think of that's successful in the Western sense. The Europeans built those things using slaves, including South Africa. South Africa was entirely built by the blood and sweat of the native people and slaves. So that was the first shipwreck. It had 500 survivors, 300 of which were slaves. Now, the crazy thing is that the slaves chose to stay with the Zulu people. Probably abantu bakwaMachi and Amampondo, most likely. Most likely they stayed with Amampondo, Amabomvana, and Abakwamachi. Those slaves were Asian and they were African. And some Maroons and Moors and a few Portuguese. That is the first ship. The second ship, Sao Bento, wrecked in the Eastern Cape, gave birth to the clans of European descendants known as Abelungu. Now, this is where I stopped when I was talking. I said Abelungu were the descendants of the shipwreck, and Abelungu, this is the difference now between people who came not to colonize but as travelers. They don't try to take over. Now I'm going to share my screen again. You will see the distribution of Abelungu in the Eastern Cape. These are European descendants from these shipwrecks. If you look here, these are the areas with participating clans. This is in the Eastern Cape, a river known as Umpashe River. In the Umpashe River, if you look at the color, there's a purple color. In Kocha River, there's a purple color. Ezwelicha, there's whatever these colors are. You can see it's these two groups. Abelungu Jekwa, Abelungu Hatu. These are Portuguese, Jekwa and Hatu. These are originally Portuguese names. I repeat, these are originally Portuguese names, Jekwa and Hatu. And then there's Hona as well. This is an originally British peoples. And then you've got other groups, the Taka peoples. These are British. The Irish people, British. The France, obviously, these are French peoples. The Ogles are both in the Eastern Cape and in KZN. The Canes, these are British settlers now from the 1820s. They literally gave birth to so many children. Their children are in the Eastern Cape and KZN as descendants to this day. But these ones, Abelungu and Amamolo, these ones, Abelungu Fuzwayo, Abelungu Hona, Abelungu Hatu, Abelungu Jekwa, and Amamolo are descendants of the shipwrecks. This is where they are distributed here, in all these areas. Look at the name of this village. This is a village. This is a village. Mamolweni, which means the place of the Moors. Andu. Andu is basically the part of the island. Andu. These are some of the clans. The Molo clan, the Irish, the Fuzwayo, the Cane, the Horner, the Taka, the France, the Ogles, the Jekwa, the Hatu, and the Book. All these are European descendants and Moorish descendants and Asian descendants. All of them. And this is not even this is not an exhaustive list. This is not an exhaustive list. This is just a small list. There's so much more other peoples. Some are colored today. For example, there's a group known as the Roscrouge. You see, there's a group with this surname. Sorry, I didn't write it down. They are known as the Roscrouge people. These people are also in the Eastern Cape. Sorry guys. Let's see if I can find them here. Ross. I actually personally know a brother from this bloodline. These are European bloodlines as well. Dawkins are also European bloodline. You find them Mampondweni. You find them KwaZulu. Roscrouge, you find them Mampondweni. You find them KwaZulu. Ogles, Canes, Molo, Abelungu. And these are just a few of them. Some are colored, but mostly they are black. So these are the descendants of these people from these ships that I'm talking about. So this is not just hearsay. There's evidence that these people left their seeds and their descendants. After the 1554 shipwreck of Sao Bento, there was another shipwreck in 1585 in KZN. It was called the Santiago. And then in 1589, the Sao Tome. And then there's many others that were not recorded. These were the ones that were recorded. There were many other ships that were not recorded. After that now, in what we call is Once. In a beach known as Sunrise on Sea, north of Umqunube and south of Ikwelech, another ship got wrecked. This was the ship known as Santo Alberto. There were 285 survivors. Of those 285 survivors, majority was slaves. So again, I'm saying, in most of these ships, the majority was always people who are not white. It was not just whites. The majority was always Asians and Africans. So whenever we talk about ships coming to Africa, don't just think it's just whites in those ships. Usually the majority are black. I repeat, usually the majority are black. Emampondweni, it's what was called Mpondoland. It's what was called Mpondoland. After the river Umtata, all the way to the river Umzimkhulu, generally that place is known as Emampondweni. Places like Libode, places like Lusikisiki, places like Engqeleni, places like Port St. John's. That is what we generally call Emampondweni. So, Eqonce, in what was called King William's Town, in 1593, another ship got shipwrecked. This is the ship that was called Santo Alberto. That was 1593. Jan van RIebeek has not even come at this time. I don't even think he was born yet at this time. 1593. The Portuguese carrack Santo Alberto was on the return voyage from Cochin. You see, it was coming back from India, on the southeast coast of India. 160 slaves survived, 125 Portuguese survived. This was in Eqong, Santo Alberto, 1593. Now, if you scroll further down, in 1622, there was another ship called Sao João Baptista. This one happened in a place known as Awa, or along the Oi River. In English, they call it Port Alfred. But this is Awa in the Oi River. But here's the thing, in all of these accounts, these Europeans are welcomed by the people. For example, here in 1593 in Qong, where the Xhosa people are, they say the Santo Alberto party chose a route further inland, negotiating with friendly locals to guide them more than 1,100 kilometers to the watering port in Maputo. So these guys were shipwrecked in Eqong. They went to the Xhosa people to guide them to go back to Maputo. How would the Xhosa people guide them if the Xhosa people don't know where Maputo is? How? So clearly, the locals knew exactly where Delagoa Bay was. That's why they called it Idalagoba. In fact, when I was young, my parents, they would use a euphemism for someone who likes to go to far away places. If they don't know where you went, you just started walking and gallivanting, they will say, hey, uhambile waye Dalagoba. We sent you to a nearby place, you went to a faraway place, Dalagoba, which is Delagoa Bay. To show that we traded with these nations, we've got sayings that say, Kukude e Bakuba. Places, names like Bakuba, names like Bazia. They have a strong element of, Aramaic, Arabic, Hebrew. Because we traded with these people. For example, these names, Bakuba and Bazia, and places in Eastern Cape, but these names are also places in the Middle East. Bakuba is the place of Uba. Ba is a house. Kuba is the angel of punishment. Bakuba is in Iraq. It's a place of punishment. Bazia is the daughter of Yah, Bazia. Because we traded with these people. That's why we have these sayings that Kukute e Bakuba. Bakuba is very far. How did they know these things? In fact, when I was young, my parents told me about a story about a place called Latakisa. Latakisa, which is Laodicea or Laodicea. Laodicea is an ancient city. Laodicea is an ancient city. I'll show you. I was told about this old ancient city. Laodicea was a wealthy, strategically located ancient city in modern Turkey. Let's see the ruins of this city. You see? How did our ancestors know about these ancient places? Because they traded. They didn't just trade. They exchanged information. And some of those people became part of our tribes, of our nations. So when I was young, I was told about a place called Latakia or Latakisa, which is Laodicea. And it's an ancient civilization. Yes. 1622, the ship called Sao João Baptista wrecks on the next to the river Ikoyi, next to the river mouth Itatamsha, in the place known as Awa. The Europeans called it Port Alfred, but we reject that because Europeans are not going to name places for us. We already have names for these places. And then in 1635, all of this, Jan van RIebeek has not come. There's another ship, Nossa Senhora de Belém, 1635. It ran aground at the mouth of a river. This is the river between Port Edward and Gqeberha, I think. It's probably one of those rivers like in Ngqingqolo. It's probably the river in Ngqingqolo where this shipwreck happened. Nossa Senhora de Belém, this got shipwrecked just above the river Iqhinsa. I think it got shipwrecked in the river in Ngqingqolo in 1635. And then this, I explain here how it got shipwrecked. I explain. But just after this one, in 1647, again, Jan van Jan van RIebeek has not come to this land. Another ship of the Portuguese, known as the Nossa Senhora da Italia do Pineiro. This is 1647. This one happened south of the river Kwengucha and north of the river and between the river Cefane and Chinza. Between the river Cefane and Chinza, this ship got shipwrecked in 1647. And the crazy thing is that all these ships, as they are being shipwrecked, the people, they're literally living with the natives. They no longer want to go back to Europe. It's like they were already tired of being in Europe. They found a new way of life to stay with the natives. Now, on this journey in 1647, on this journey, two ships were wrecked. It was this one, which got wrecked in between Cefane and Chinza rivers, and the second one, the Santissimo Sacramento, also in 1647. This one got shipwrecked further down in Gqeberha, in what is called Sardinia Bay. It is said that the people from this shipwreck, from Echinza and Ecefane, they walked all the way down. They walked all the way down to Gqeberha. They were so hungry, they ate a shoe. It says that by the time they reached the wreckage of another shipwreck, the Belém, they were so famished that some devoured a shoe they found, as well as the mariner's chart. It says the last 9 survivors eventually met up with Atalaya party. They ate a shoe. They were so hungry. Here's the thing now. You'll never learn about this at school. That's why I've always encouraged people to join my program, my 6-month program. Because after that program, you cannot think the same again. You can't be the same person again. You will be ready to take on the nonsensical people in our midst. But above all, we need to take on the government. The government is the real problem here, because they are the enablers of all this nonsense. The First Nation, the Aboriginal fake fraudsters, the pretendians of South Africa, they are being enabled by the government. But how are you going to take on the government without this truth? They've fed you the Kool-Aid in their school curriculum. You inbox me if you want to join the program. There are some members of the program here in the comments. They will be able to help you, to give you direction as well. Please, guys, the guys who are part of the program, if someone has questions, please answer if I can't see. These are the shipwrecks of 1647, 2 of them. The guys who got shipwrecked on this one were so hungry, they literally ate a shoe. Guys, do you understand? To eat a shoe is basically what Nigerians do when they cook that cow skin, that leather. But that's the Portuguese one. The Dutch shipwrecks on the eastern coast as well. This one is 1686. 1686. They got shipwrecked in Port Shepstone. And then in 1713, in the time of King Paulo, the Dutch also got shipwrecked. Now, here's a very interesting point. Paulo was literally running the Xhosa kingdom at this time. It says, an English trading vessel found the remaining 19 survivors. These are Dutch, supported by the friendly Xhosa in 1714. Do you understand? Look at what they said. The Dutch who were shipwrecked were literally supported by Amaxhosa until they were found by their British people. And these are only the recorded. Look at what follows. 4 survivors went back to Cape Town. How many did they find? They found 19. But it says 4 of these 19 survivors went back to Cape Town, while the rest, and these are Dutch people, preferred to integrate with the local community. Why would these Europeans, why would these Dutch people, why would they choose to abandon everything to live with these Xhosa people, like the Portuguese had done before, and lived with the Xhosa and lived with the Zulu and lived with the Mpondo. Why? Because there was kak in Europe. They were throwing kak from the window down. There's no better way to say it, guys. Bephefumula ikaka. It seems part of the Eastern Cape has inherited that. It needs to be fixed. They must stop with the corruption. But yeah, bekunzima Europe. Bekunzima. They couldn't survive. They thought bathing was a witchcraft. You're doing witchcraft when you're bathing. They thought you were doing witchcraft. So do you understand, guys, that Europeans, in their numbers, were given the option to go back to Cape Town in the civilization, as they say. Mara, the Europeans are like, oh no, we're staying with these people. We ain't going nowhere. Now, guys, this is what I'm saying. The descendants of these Europeans, obviously, are black people today. It's what you would call black people. It's what you would call black people. Now, there were other shipwrecks in the east, in the western side of South Africa. The ones I just did were on the east. There were others on the west. For example, in 1644, you had Mauritius Island. Here's the thing. When they talk about this, they will tell you that it's just one ship, but it's usually 3 to 4 ships. And these people will stay for periods of time. This is way before Jan van RIebeek. So before Jan van RIebeek, there was an active community of ships passing South Africa. Not just Cape Town, but the whole South Africa. From Northern Cape, where the Orange River feeds off, Oranjemund, what they call Oranjemund, the Orange Mouth, all the way to Saldanha, all the way to Mossel Bay, all the way to Gqeberha, all the way to KZN, all the way to Limpopo. There was bustling activity in these areas. Now, you tell me now, would you not call that international trade? Would you not call that international involvement by South Africa? Is that not international involvement? So where does this narrative come from? That South Africa is usually, or people say South Africa was undiscovered. Nobody knew about South Africa. Let's go back to when we were unknown. No, we've always been known. It's you who didn't know your country. Europeans have always known. They're the ones who wrote about it. Europeans have always known. I need native Africans to understand. When you say, let's go back to being unknown, you were the one who was unknown. They took you and put you in reserves. You know, nature reserved? Yeah, they were native reserves. They put you in native reserves. Like, oh no, just stay there. Stay here in the zoo. You kafir, stay here. So the idea that South Africa was this small country, South Africa has always been important for maritime purposes. Absolutely important for maritime purposes. That's why in the... I think I lost my notes now. Let me just check my notes. That's why it's important then to understand that 1652 was not the date at which Europeans began to have substantial and regular contact with indigenous people. There was absolutely bustling trading activity hundreds of years before Jan van RIebeek was even born. On the eastern side and even on the western side of South Africa, from Limpopo to Gqeberha, from Table Bay all the way to the west coast. All the way to the west coast. In fact, there's a book by the maritime historian Robin Knox Johnson. The book is called The Cape of Good Hope Maritime History. It was from the 80s, the book, but it did highlight that in that 100-year period between 1600 and 1700, 100-year period, there was more than 1,700 Dutch ships that went from Europe to Asia. More than 1,700 in 100 years. Imagine the 200 years before that. And notably, here's the most important thing. Let me show you my notes, actually. Let me just show you my notes so that you can read for yourselves. Notably, the ship's crews and the travelers included Africans, Arabs, Indians, Chinese, and Southeast Asians, and not just Europeans. The Dutch shipping, uh, the Dutch shipping outward and homeward bound together shows around 118,000 travelers on board vessels coming to Cape Town between 1600 and 1652. So between 1600 and 1652, that is to say before Jan van RIebeek, already in that 52 years before Jan van RIebeek, 52 years alone, there was a total of 180,000 people going to Cape Town. And obviously, if they're going to Cape Town, they feed off to Eastern Cape, they feed off to KZN, they feed off to Limpopo. Because these ships, usually they go around, they go and stop maybe by the trading port of the Portuguese in Delagoa Bay. Between 1600 and 1652, there was 180,000 people, European, Asian, Africans who came. So this nonsense of 1652 and that Europeans came and the land was empty, it's complete and utter garbage. There was trade happening. Even with Europeans, they know it. That's the thing. Because in the 1630s, Europeans took some indigenous people, they took them with their ships to Asia. There were already people who could speak English at that time. By the 1600s, there were already people who could speak Dutch, who were translators for the bloody Europeans. So, who are they lying to? Themselves or us? Well, I know they're counting on the inefficacy of our education system, because our education system teaches absolutely nothing. You go to school, even people with PhDs, they sound like 3-year-olds. With people with PhDs, sound like 3-year-olds. You sit down with them, they know nothing at all. Nothing at all. Hey, Mama T, please go back, go away with your grade 1 history here. Here we talk about real stuff. This nonsense of you people, you always come with these selected stories that you want to perpetuate. Aye, Futsek. So this that I'm sharing with you is intriguing, because you see right now, Iran, China, and Russia are here. They are here to exercise in the waters of South Africa. People are like, oh no, what have we gotten ourselves into? We haven't gotten ourselves into anything. It's always been like this. It's always been like this. South Africa is extremely important strategically for the entire world. Since the 1400s, since the 1200s. What the hell are you talking about? But the problem is that you needed to be at the narrative of Europeans. You needed to be the narrative of Europeans for you to understand it now. When Europeans say, oh, South Africa is a good player in the international stage, then all of a sudden, you will go and disseminate that. But if it doesn't come from Europeans, if Europeans are critical of South African activities, oh no, guys, have we done something wrong? We've always been like this, guys. We've always been like this. And for Europeans and Americans to act as if South Africa doesn't do military exercises and military drills with other countries. South Africa does a lot of military drills with America itself. They do a lot of military drills with America itself. So they must stop playing nonsense here. So I just wanted to share that history, guys, specifically when it comes to waters. We've received many visitors, many other nations through our waters. The Portuguese, the Dutch, Asians, Black Africans. Here's a very important piece of information, though. Slaves were generally the majority on these ships. I repeat, slaves were generally the majority on these ships. Why were they the majority? They were the majority because they did the maintenance work. If there were some cracks on the ship, the slaves are the ones who were to fix it. That's why when you see these shipwrecks, the survivors were always majority slaves. It's not a shocker to me. It makes complete sense, actually, that majority of the survivors are slaves because the majority of the people on the ships were slaves. Now, someone was asking, did we have ships? What I do say is we have the entire lexicon for ships. We've got names for canoes. We've got names for big ships. We've got names for surfing boards, islenge, imikhumbi, inqanawe. Now, we've got names for this thing. We've got names for paddling, imipini. We've got names for those things. We've got names for aquatic, sea animals like fish, octopus, the tentacles. We've got names for stuff. We've got names for these things, some of which are actually deep sea creatures. So for me, it does speak to a very intimate relationship with the sea, really. It speaks to a very intimate relationship with the sea. In fact, the fact that we differentiate between a beach, the sea, the ocean, and the deep ocean, the fact that we can differentiate between those things, we don't see it as just this one big body of water. That's enough for me. The fact that we've got names for whales, we differentiate between otters and seals, and we've got names for different types of dolphins and animals that you will only find at sea. That is very important. In fact, some of our indigenous peoples ate these things. Some of them ate whales and seals. Not everyone, very small minority, but we did. Now, you can't just eat these things. They're not going to come to you. You have to go and find a way to get them. We did a lot of fishing. That's why some of the Portuguese names, it would be the river of the fishermen, Rio do Pescarias, river of the fishermen. A whale in isiXhosa is umnenga. A starfish or octopus would be called ingwane. A shark is ukrebe. A dolphin is ihlengesi. And then you have an otter, intini, and a seal, injayolwandle, etc. There's many of them. So for me, I think it just solidifies the need for our people to really start thinking like adults now. My biggest worry with indigenous people, they think like children. They're waiting for someone to spoon feed them. They're waiting for someone to come and save them. And also our people are so allergic to actually reading stuff. For example, when people say, I will vote for Groenewald, you know that you actually can't really do that because Groenewald is not an independent. He's a member of a party. So you'll just be voting for Vryheid Front Plus. You're not voting for Groenewald. You're voting for Vryheid Front Plus. That's why you did not vote for Zuma. You voted for Umkhonto Wesizwe Party. You don't vote for Mandela. You're voting for the ANC. It's just a matter of understanding the little nuances. And it requires you to think for yourself to be able to see these things. So when you say, I'll vote for Groenewald, what you're really saying is that I just want a savior. I'm lazy to do it for myself. I'm too lazy to help myself. I'm too lazy to think for myself. I need someone to come and save me. And nobody's going to come to save you. It's not going to happen. Nobody should come to save you. They should screw you over time and again until you realize that there's no saviors here. Each one is trying to preserve themselves. Everyone is trying to preserve themselves, man. You think these people care about saving you? They don't have time to be saving no bloody kafir. They want to take for themselves and their children. You want to be saved. Maybe you should not vote then. Maybe you should not have a say. You shouldn't have an opinion on anything because you behave like a toddler. You should be treated like a toddler. So we need to get to a point where, as a group of people, we start to actually think and apply our minds. We have to start thinking and applying our minds, guys. Come on, we can't be thinking like children. How people think like babies, they think like toddlers. They want to be spoon fed everything every day. Somebody must come and do for them. So, if you feel like information like this, but at a much deeper level, information that addresses history, but also the future. Because the truth is that this is not sustainable. The system, these isms and schisms, capitalism, socialism, Leninism, Marxism, all these things, man, they're not sustainable. At the end of the day, as a people, we need to have skills, we need to have values, we need to have group thinking, group economics, we need to have something that we stand for and we're not going to move from it. And unfortunately, it's going to require very few people. Very few people, not many. Many of us are already disposable and we should not even be here on earth. Majority of our people are a liability. I don't care if this hurts you or not. It's the truth. And somebody has to say it. Majority of indigenous black South African people are a liability. They don't want to do anything for themselves. They want someone to come and do for them. They'd rather be enslaved than be free, because then at least when they're enslaved, it's guaranteed that the master is going to keep on beating them up just so that they can bath themselves. It's like a child who doesn't want to bath. You don't want to bath yourself, but it's for your own good. Go take a bath. Go take a bath, motherfucker. So, this is something that's going to need very few of our people. Very few of our people to come together and devise a long-term plan and operate like a real secret society and manipulate the masses of our people. The masses of our people need to be manipulated. They need to be controlled behind the scenes because they already are by other people. So it needs to be done by our people. Manipulate and control them because clearly they can't operate on their own. That's the truth. Now, I'm done on this subject. I was just trying to share, this part of our history when it comes to the seas, and how we've always traded with other communities. We have a history with Arabs, with Bedouins, with people from Oman, people from Yemen. You can ask questions. There's one question I want to answer. Which Kwe people were based in South Libombo? So, you have Tswa peoples amongst the Tsonga, Vatswa. You have the Chauke, you have the Hlengwe. All those are Kwe people. You have the Trikwi speakers, or the Tloutle. You have Chwa, which we also know as Amachwau, Amadei, Shwaukwe. Now, Kwe is just a part of other groups, like Kwi. There's Kwi, there's Ju, there's Kha, there's Kwe, there's Ntu, or Ta. So, the specific Kwe speaking groups are basically your Hlengwe, your Chauke, your Vatswa, abantu bakwaNgwenya, who are Swati today. A lot of the Swati groups, Ongwenya. You have I don't know about Amaklasi, but I'm not sure where they were about in that vicinity. You have Chwa. But then there's other groups. Here's there's this thing of Kwe, Kwe is not a race. That's the thing. It's a group. Some are called Kwe, some are called Kwi, some are called Ta, some are called Ju, some are called Kha. It's groups of ethnic peoples whom we call Inasi. Inasi. What is I? I is what you would call Iqiba. What is Iqiba? It's a household, a clan. It's uhlanga. Ngasi. Ngasi. Ngasi is uhlanga olunye or uhlanga olubambene or uhlanga lwangqangqi. Uhlanga lwangqangqi or lwangqangi. Mveli ngqangi. So ingqasi is iqiba langqangi. So uhlanga lolapha eMzantsi. So ingqasi is organized in many different groups. You have two, which is where Batu comes from, or Bantu. It's two or ta or Taqwi. You have Kwe, which you get the Kwadi peoples, the Kwekwe peoples, the Nama, the Shwakwe. You've got Kwi. From the Kwi, you get, what is this? From the Kwi, you get your Tram, you get, okay, Hlelo, noted. I will look for the dandelion tea. Because, I look at laptops a lot. I'm going to get the dandelion tea. Thank you for that. So, for me, when you ask which people are Kwe, I will tell you exactly which people are Kwe. But it's not a race that is not the other people. No, these are indigenous people of South Africa. Tangi means old. Tangi means old. It's Tangi or Kangi or Ngangi. JJ, for gags, if we organize, the kafirs will die out. I agree. That's the biggest challenge right now. It's the kafirs. The biggest challenge is the kafirs right now. The kafirs are basically your house Negroes, the people who voluntarily offer themselves to white domination and Arab domination and Chinese domination and anything other than themselves domination. And then, did indigenous people drink tea considering rooibos? Yeah, no. We, the indigenous people, you are also indigenous. You guys must not speak this thing in third. Are you guys afraid of being indigenous? Do you guys even know what being indigenous means? I've noticed our people are so broken by Europeans. Like, they distance themselves from indigeneity. Indigenous means native. It's literally the same word as native. Go to a thesaurus, you'll see that the indigenous and native is the same thing. Literally the same thing. So, yeah, we used to drink tea. We've got different types of teas. There's Iqwaka. There's Inghina, which is like a wild mint. Rooibos is another tea. Buchu. All these are our indigenous teas. Am I happy? Yeah, no, I am. It's very nice to walk in an authoritative state of mind. I'm very happy because I don't need to look outside for anything. It all comes from within. I don't worry too much about other people, our people especially. I've already accepted the truth. The truth is that only a very few of us will ever reach a level of freedom in this generation. But also, it's more than 10 generations that were victims of slavery. It's more than 10 generations that were victims of oppression. So it's going to take at least 30 generations to be completely free. The beginning of our freedom. So I don't worry about people who oppose this work. I know you just need to plant the seeds. My job is to just plant the seeds. My kids have to take it forward. Their kids have to take it forward. But I just need a few people, just a few families, just 5 to 10 families of our people to fully detach from the parasite. If I get that, then the seed of our ancestors is going to be safe. So yeah, I'm very happy. Yeah, natives is indigenous. That's what it means. Being native and being indigenous is the same thing. So I don't get this fear of indigeneity. It's weird. Do I do panels on my TikTok lives? Yeah, I do. But sometimes I have a curated. I have a curated topic that I need to cover. Then after that, I can allow people to come in. So yeah, and then someone was saying, Upungane, Ukhadebe, with Amasosha, had already started doing something similar. Yeah, I see what Upungane is doing. I know about Upungane. In fact, I know where he's from, where he used to stay in Cape Town, Eguguletu. The organization he used to work for before he went independent, I also know. We were together there. Well, I used to be part of that organization myself. So I'm very familiar with his work. That's I'm gonna end there. The Karoo region. Yeah, we you know the name Karoo. It's actually an indigenous name in and of itself. It's Karoo. Karoo, which means hard, something difficult, something strong, something tough. No. Ukhatebe comes from Eguguletu. Eguguletu 3A. Ubungane 3A. Maybe he does have family in Langa, but he grew up in Guguletu. I'm gonna show you how Kunkia is written. Someone was asking about Kunkia, and I'm gonna explain what Kunkia is. I'm gonna share my screen now. You'll see what Kunkia is. This is Kunkia. So Kui simply means the people. It's the click form of it's Kui or Kwe. So when we say these softened words are generally from click forms, this is what we mean. Kui is the people. Kia. Kia is to speak. It's kia, it's kya. Ugucheya. You know, Mampondomise, they have this word when they speak, but bayatseya. Mampondomise, but bayatseya. Tseya. To speak in the Mpondomise dialect. Tseya. Now, if you understand anything about phonetics, kia is KY. It's basically TY in phonetics. So, kia and tsia is to talk. Ukutseya. Or ukutseya, to talk. And therefore a language. I repeat, kia is to talk. Amampondomise say ukutseya. It's a form of ukuxela or ukutshela. That L becomes a Y. It's tseya or keya instead of xela or tshela. Is to talk. So kui, people, kia, to talk. Kwinkia is the speech of the people. Kwinkia is literally the speech of the people. So you could call it Kwinkia, but that's literally what it is. The way that Kui people talk, the speech of the people. Now, there are people who call themselves Kui. These are people like your Tram. Now, Tram is an animal. It's a totem. Tram is an animal. It's an oryx, I think. It's an oryx. Inkukama or Utrama. Inkukama. This animal is an oryx. Let me show you. This is Tram. When you say Tram, you are referring to this animal. It's a Tram. Ne? So it's the people of the oryx. They call themselves Kui, which means people. They call themselves which means people. They call themselves Kwa, which means people. They call themselves Kwe. And I will explain the connection to our languages. They call themselves Kui. And this is where Sukwini comes in. The Xhosa people known as Sukwini. That Kui right there is the term form of Kui. Sukwini. It's Swa Queen. the people of the hills. Kwe comes from this click form, kwe. So even kwe itself is a softened or codified click version. In its click form, it's kwe. If you look at the coat of arms, you'll find kwe ekharakhe. In the coat of arms, you'll find kwe ekharakhe. Kwe is basically what we call in isiXhosa, or when you talk about the body of a person or the physical being, you say ku, inqu, isiqu. All these words simply mean people. Some people use these words. So you can't call the Khoisan. They don't even use the word kwe to refer to themselves. You can call them kwe, you can call them kui. That's why then we refer to the language of the Cham people as a form of Gwinkia. It's not kwe. The language of the Cham people is not kwe. It's Gwinkia or Gwinkio, depending on the dialect. Even Cham is not one unified language. It's many different dialects. You see? So you've got many different dialects of Cham itself. Yes, that's literally what it is. The people's speech. Isintu. The people's speech. In fact, the word Bantu, in and of itself, the very word Bantu, I've said it. This is my very first video, by the way. This is my very first video on TikTok. I told you that Bantu is a queer word. It's a Kwi word. Look here. You see, if you go to Gwinkia, you look for the word for people. You see, K'i is used for people. You see, K'e is used for people. Cho is used for people. Zhu is used for people. In isiXhosa, when we use isihlonipho, we refer to people as Zhu. Zhu. Even here, Zhu is for people. Ku is people. K'e is people. K'e is people. All different versions in Gwinkia. And this is not exhaustive. There are many other versions that they did not include. This is for people. Now, if we go, we look for the singular form, a person. You just have to come down here. For a person, you can already see umzu. Zu is a person. You can already see here. That's where abatwa is found. In this form, chwa, which means a person as well. Chwa, mucho, or mutsu in Baputi language. It's a person. Unu in Xitsonga. Munu. In Xitsonga, it's munu. And in Xishona, it's munu. Unu. That's a person right there. Do you understand what I'm saying? So even Isilala, even the Tekela languages, all of these languages are founded upon Gwinkia. All of them are founded upon Gwinkia. I've said it time and again. There's many other versions here. And these versions, they manifest in our languages in different forms. So, it's just that today I don't have time to be going through this. But if you go through this, you will see, for example, this is a Gwinkia dictionary. If you look at here for pig, you've got different names. Look at this. Look at this name for a pig. This is so-called Bushman language. What is this? Hagu. It's a hagu. Hagu is a softened form of ngagu. It's a pig. If you look here, you've got another word, kolobe. Kolobe. It's Gwinkia. If you look here, you have another one, ngulu. Which is ngulube, by the way. Many different words here. Of pigs. we could go even further and look at others. Now, there's a question there in the comments if I have a session where I talk about stars. There is a video where I talk about stars. Let me try and find it here and show you. Let me go to my channel. I'll find it for you quickly. Bloody Donald Trump.
Peace, family. This is Sunny Luamazigane Tugani. I'd like.
Just give me a second. Let's search here. You see here, there's a video here. It says stars, constellation, and seasons, indigenous. You see in this video, I did go a bit into detail into these different stars. I did go into detail. Maybe tomorrow I can do another one and talk about astronomy and all the different versions and different names of planets. But here, I'm using indigenous knowledge to talk about this. So yeah, you can just come in here and check this. You will see. Now, there's another one I want to show you before I close. This is another so-called queer dictionary. There's another queer dictionary. So, in this dictionary, you will see, for example, here, there's a word, hua. So this is not a click. This is hua. Hua is to scratch, is to engrave something, is to carve, is to write. Ukukhola. Ukukhola. You find the same thing in Setswana. Khwara, to scrape with a knife. Kwala, to write. You find the same thing in isiXhosa, ukukhola and ukungwala. So you must familiarize yourself with these so-called Khoisan languages. Because if you look here, it's khabe, which is moreover, however, rather, yet still, khabe. This is qora. It's the same one in Setswana as khape. It's the same one in Sintu as kambe. You see? And there's so much more that I can show you. And this is a completely different language. Completely different language from the one we were checking. Here, tseb. Tseb is a day. Tse. Tse means a day. Mu tse in Setswana. But also, te is where the word we have, it's ati. You have inoni, the blessed book. Noni, which is nonce in Qora. There are many, many, many other instances. Like, for example, I had spoken about this one. Khau. Khau, which means a man, an adult man. But it also occurs as likau in Setswana. Likau in Setswana. And khauba, ikhaba in isiXhosa. And this is where your kau comes from. No, kau comes from Kaunda. Kau comes from Kaunda, from Zambia. No, Baba. Kau is an indigenous word. It doesn't come from Kaunda here. No more time for that nonsense of Kaunda now. No more. Khabu in Qora is a flame. Khabo in Tswana is a flame. Kakares in Qora is an edible white bulb similar to a turnip. In Setswana it's khankale. And there's so many, many, many other instances in these very same dictionaries to show Setswana, Sesotho, Sepedi, isiZulu. In fact, if you look here, there's a name for Zulu people. Xungxaunan. Xhu. Zulu people. Xhu is the same one you find in isiZulu as Nquma. Umnquma. You see, Nqumalo, because bayanquma, they sucking the hold. Umnquma. Nqu. When you're sucking from a hold. Nqu. That's Xhu. Ngquna. Ngqu is an ear. Ngqu is an ear. Na is simply a suffix that we use for people. Xhu ngquna is the people with ears that are pierced. Amazulu. Hey, my God, the people with earrings, basically, with big earrings. That was the name for the Zulu people in Kora. How come the Kora knew about the Zulu people? Agree, you said the Zulu people arrived in 1800. How come they have a name in Kora? They are not called Bantu invader there. They are called Xhu. You have Khwab here. In Kora, it's snow. Khwab. In isiZulu, Iqhwa. Why are they not being called Bantu invader? Why are they called Xhu? I just want to know that. If you can just answer that for me. Why were the Zulus called Xhu? Why were the Sotho called Birikwa? Why were they not called Bantu invader? There should have been a name to show these are invaders. No, they were called Birikwa and Xhu and Mambo and Trambu. Come on, guys. You see, there's this name in Kora. Khau Khodom. Khau is to cut. Kho is another shortened form for Khaula. Kho. Khau Khodom. Dom is intamo. Khau Khodom. Khaula, kukhaula, intamo. To cut off the throat. To slaughter by the manner of cutting the throat. Khau Khodom. In isiXhosa it's ukukhodoma. Khau Khodom in Kora, ukukhodoma in Xhosa. In Kora, ukuqhama in isiXhosa, to kill or to beat something into the wall. For example, if you have a hammer and you are beating a nail into the wall, you will say, usiqhamile isikhongwane. To beat something pap is to kill. Qhaykhab in Kora, igqirha in isiXhosa. I could go on and on and on, guys. Look at this. Qabi, to ride. Ukuqabela in isiXhosa. But it's also ukuthi qabe in isiXhosa. So, the truth here is that it's not a lack of... man, what is this now? The truth is not a lack of information on how these people are the one. The truth is that our own people have let go of who they are. It's our people who have let go of who they are. And unfortunately, there's nothing we can do when the owners of the information don't want to learn. You can tell our people anything. Oh, Impundulu is a bird. They think Impundulu is something else. They will come with the most stupid excuses in the comments. No, Impundulu is a car. When you're dreaming of a car, it's Impundulu. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, before cars were invented, the word Impundulu was already there. If you knew anything about how words are formed, you would know that Impundulu simply means lo unepundu. Literally, the word simply means onepundu. Impundulu is just another way of saying it. Like when you say udingane or udingane, you're simply saying lo odingayo, the one who is in need, the one who's alone. Udingayo. Undaba is simply saying lo uludaba, the one who's being discussed. That's simply what it is. You know, when something is deep, we say inzulu. But it comes from another verb, ukuzulumbela, to go deep. Kuzulumbela, to sink. So when you say something in Zulu, that means it sinks, it goes deep. Words come from other words. Words come from other words. When am I having another live? When am I having Gauseb on my live? No, I can have him anytime. He was here today. But I think maybe he had other things to do. Is there a difference between Kwinkia and Kora. Yes. Kwinkia is spoken by the Kwi peoples, your Tram, your Komani, what you would typically call, what they call Abatwa, especially the Abahlala Mahlathini. Kwinkia, Kora is spoken about, is spoken by Kora people. And it's similar to Nama and Kwekwe Gwab. So Kora is another dialect. It's Kwe. Kora is Kwe. Tram is Kwi. You understand? Kora is Kwemana. Tram is Kunkia. So I would say maybe Kora is how would I put it, Gonch? But both these things are similar. It's just differences in pronunciation here and there. And both Kora and Kunkia you will find in isiXhosa and in isiZulu and Sesotho. But yes, Kora is part of what we call Kwemana. Kwemana means the languages of the Kwe. That's it. Kwemana is language of the Kwe. Kunkia is language of the Kwi. Takan or Tukan is language of the two peoples, the Batu. Is a standard introduction one would learn for this information? I don't understand what you're saying in Tlantla. Please say it again. I just couldn't understand. I don't understand what your question is. Guys, I'm gonna drop now. If you have questions, please ask. If I can't answer, I will answer some other time. Njinji. Nika is asking me, do you know the meaning of Unjinji? Nika? Is it the last name? I know someone with one eye is called Injiji in his cause. Someone with one eye, like in your call. If one eye can't see and the other one can see, you will be called Injiji in his cause. That one I know. But also now, something that you're twisting. Someone who makes a rope. Someone who makes ropes. Who makes whips. Amangasha. That person will be called Injinji as well. Someone is asking about Gange. Gange is a language. Gange is a language. Yabona, here in the Eastern Cape, in places like Ingcobo, in places like Utsolo, Inqanqarhu, Gubenge, Inqu River. Yeah, there's people who used to live there, known as the Gange people. Today, most of them, they were Amampondomise even back then. Is the ancestors of Oqengeba. It's the ancestors of Oqiqa. It's the ancestors of Ongwina. You see, when Qengeba says Tolelom Twagas, they really mean the Gange people. Now, but Gange people were not just in Eastern Cape, they were also in Southern Lesotho, with Maputi and Amabhaca as well. Yabo. Yeah, so that's Gange, therefore, Gabatwa Basengcobo base Eastern Cape. As much as amathembu ngabathwa and amaXhosa ngabathwa, but amaXhosa ngabathwa abanenkomo, amaGange ngabathwa abangenankomo. So there's a difference. Onxasana, they are the people, same people as Xegwi speakers, same people as the Xhotle. Asana is the people of the fire. Asana, abantu bomlilo. So they are related to people we know as Xhotle or the Xegwi speakers. These are people who are in the Drakensberg area of KZN. And some of them traveled all the way to Lesotho, to Eswatini as well. Someone with one eye, we call them Inyokolo. We call them Inyokolo or Injinji. That is someone with one eye. I know Inyori as well. I grew up using Inyori. I speak Xhosa. I speak proper Xhosa. It's Xhosa qho. Esinganqengwanga futhi esisulungekileyo. IsiZulu and isiXhosa was it popularized by missionaries? Well, IsiZulu and isiXhosa was written down. I don't think missionaries popularized isiXhosa and isiZulu because they liked isiXhosa and isiZulu, or because They thought these were the better languages. Europeans just needed something that can be standardized and everyone will speak it. They could have chosen isimpondo. They could have chosen, isimfengu sakudala. But remember now, when Europeans arrived in Eastern Cape, obviously majority of the people spoke isiXhosa, so they just standardized it. How did they standardize it? By writing down lists of words. The first one to write a list of words was Unyengane in 1799. They would write a list of words in 1799, Unyengane, and then John Benny wrote a list of words, and his children started writing as well. So they just standardized, and basically other languages were killed. But the real killing of languages happened with apartheid, not even colonization. It was apartheid. Because apartheid said this homeland, the apartheid created homelands and therefore forced people in that homeland to assume that identity that they are giving them. So it's actually missionaries and then apartheid. Missionaries started it, apartheid, sealed it. In KZN, missionaries were even worse because they discouraged languages like Isilala, Isizansi, Isicele. They said these were languages of demons. So if you spoke those languages, you're going to hell. Literally. Tlokwa, we've said it time and again. Tlokwa are Kora people. It's Tlokwa. In the click form, when you say Tlokwa, you're saying Tlokwa. You're saying people of the wildcat. Kwabi, or Nwabe, or Kwabe is in reference to the wildcat, right? Felis Kafra. Wildcat, Felis Kafra. So, Kwa or Kwa is the cat, the wildcat. Inwa or Inwe. Now, Kwa, remember, means people. It's related to the word for habit or essence, the essence of a person. Mukwa. So, the people of the wildcat, they are a Kora people. Same as Ngosini, which is Kausen, the last clan, which are also the same as Amabang, the Bango people, the Chirilip, Onchilibe, the Binose. The president of Botswana is also Kora because he comes from the Bango people. That's Matlokwa for you. Someone was asking, what is Isimfengu Sakdala? Isimfengu is basically the language of Abambo that they spoke when they came from KZN to Eastern Cape. They used to tekela. So, for example, Intaba, they would say Intsaba. Ukuthi is Ukutsi. Nidzenatsi Intsaba nileya. They would respond. So when Abambo arrived, they actually spoke. In fact, there are many words that I have. You see the word ukujija, to turn something. In isiXhosa, that word is ukujika. Ukujika, you are turning something. That's why a wire that you use to turn around. We call it ijiko in isiXhosa because it comes from the word ukujika. But amamfengu or abambo, they used to say ukujija, not ukujika. And there are many, many other words that come from Abambo. For example, the months of the year. Abambo did not use the same months of the year as us or as Xhosa speakers. Instead, Abambo used months of the year like Umbasa or Umabasa instead of Ukwindla. They would say instead of Eyomdumba, they would say Umabasa, Eyokubasa, the month. Unwaba, those are some of the months they used. The same months that are used in in KZN. Words like umpotulo, for example, for umvubo, Abambo would say umpotulo. They would say umvubo. I've got more than 500 words from Isimfengu alone. Now today, those words, unfortunately, okay, maybe not more than, maybe 400, I don't know. But those words from isiMfengu today are as good as isiXhosa. They're literally as good as isiXhosa. I've got 365 words from isiMfengu. But today, if I say it's isiMfengu, Xhosa people are going to be angry. For example, umphokoqo isiMfengu was called umphobe. Umphobe. In isiMfengu, they never used to say phofu. They used to say pho, like amaZulu. So there's many instances like that. I think I'm tired. I think I'm tired, so I'm gonna drop today. I do think that umphokoqo does have to do with uphoko. I think it's just uphoko that has been dried. Which is because ko means dry. Yome qoko or yome qo. So uphoko or lome qo is umphokoqo. isiXhosa and isiZulu. We never said those languages are Nguni, guys. It's Europeans who said it. I'm just going to be honest with you. There was never, not even one black person who said isiZulu and isiXhosa are Nguni. There was not even one black person who said that. If you can name just one indigenous person who came with that theory, that Xhosa and Zulu and Swati and Anguni, just one black person, all those things are from A.T. Bryant. It's him who made those theories up. What we do know is that isiXhosa and isiZulu and isiSwati and isiNdebele are the same thing originally. Whether someone calls them Nguni or Quni or whatever, it's literally the same language. Anyone can see it. But Sesotho and Setswana and Sepedi are also the same thing as isiXhosa. It's the same thing. These languages are the same. I don't see the difference. If anyone can tell me what the difference is, I would be very happy. For me, difference is just over time, linguistics processes, lenition, where vowels, where what is this? Syllables change places. Some syllables go to the back, others go to the front. And also some consonants become harder, some become softer. That is to be expected in any language. But for me, I don't really see the difference between isiXhosa and isiZulu and isiSwati and isiNdebele, as well as Sesotho, Setswana. In fact, you can go as far as Tshivenda and Xitsonga. All, they are literally the same thing. You could tell that perhaps 900 years ago, 1,000 years ago, they were the same language. Add Kwinkia and Kweman and Kwedam, add Juha languages there, you realize that 3,000 years ago, we literally spoke the same thing. There's no way we didn't. There's no way. It's just that over time, languages will go through processes of lenition. What is lenition? Lenition is when consonants become softer and softer and softer. That is to say, from click, you get a hard click, and then it becomes a softer click, and then a softer click, and then a non-click, and then a harsh non-click, and then a soft non-click, and then a soft non-click, all the way to a soft word, soft sound. The rough one is preserved. It's preserved where? It's preserved in izihlonipho. So, ancestor or no, Nguni or no Nguni, these languages come from the same ancestor. That's it. They come from the same ancestor. Now, within one language, you will find that there's also dialectical differences. Like, if I speak isiXhosa, there are Xhosa people here, some of the words I'm using, they will have never heard them before. Because it's my dialect. I was asking, in Sesotho, is it a soft click? Is a harsh non-click. It comes from a click. It comes from a click. When you soften the click, you get. It's a harsh non-click. So it's the first step of removing a click. And then from you'll get t. So from o and ndlovu, you'll get thovu or ndovu. But ndo is the softest. From though you get a harsher sound like oh and ndlov. From those sounds you get even a harsher sound like oh or kowa in Kwinkia, which is all the same word. So from kowa in Kwinkia, ukudlova, kowa. You go from kowa to klo and dlovu. You go from klo and dlovu to ndowu or ndowu in Chivend. So you realize that from Kwi to Xhosa to Sotho to Chivend, it's literally the same word. Just the sound becomes softer and softer with time. Now, there may be other explanations for these linguistic processes, but it's true. It happens like that. And I've always said it, it's the same language originally. It's Kunkia, it's Kwemana, it's Tu. These are the sources of Isintu from South Africa, or Sitsu. Thank you guys. Thank you for joining. I'm dropping off now. I'm going to upload it on YouTube. Chisebe. Chisebe sounds like a branch. Isisebe. It sounds like a branch of a tree, or even an eyelash. Chisebe. Literally sounds like that. Just by looking at the structure of the word, it sounds like usebe or isebe. Bye bye, guys. Thank you. Oh, it's this is gonna be on YouTube, guys. Please go and watch.